Part 6H, the bigger picture, part 2. You came back. Good. Because this is the part where the personal becomes collective. Where what happened in one life becomes a lens through which to see what is happening in all of our lives. And before I go any further, I want to be transparent about something. Because the further this series travels, the more important it becomes that you understand the intention behind it. I'm aware of the fine line I am walking in sharing all of this. There's a version of this story that could be told from a place of revenge, of wanting to expose, of wanting the world to see what was done and who did it, and to watch the consequences follow. I understand that impulse. I will not pretend it has never visited me. But I also understand how the universe works. And I know with complete certainty that revenge is not the energy that rebuilds a life. That anything I build from that place will carry the weight of it, will be limited by it, will ultimately reflect it back at me in ways I do not want. My goal is not revenge. My goal is to rebuild the life that was lost. And the only way to do that, the only way that aligns with something greater than myself, the only way that God would approve of, is to build it on a give back. To take what was done to me and make it mean something beyond my own healing. To make sure that the awareness I found at such a significant cost does not stay with me, that it reaches the people who need it. And the only real tool I have at my disposal to bring awareness to something this absurd, something this difficult to believe without having lived it, is my own story, told in detail. Because the person sitting in their own confusion and depletion and stuckness needs more than a vague spiritual concept. They need to recognize something, a behavior, a pattern, a specific and familiar detail that makes them stop and say, I know that. I have seen that. That has happened to me. The details are not here to expose. They are there to make the unbelievable believable. To anchor something that lives in the spiritual and the unseen, in the completely verifiable reality of everyday life. That recognition is the beginning of the awareness, and the awareness is the beginning of the way out. So I share it, knowing the risk, knowing the fine line, and deciding with full awareness and full intention that the risk is worth taking. Because the give back is the point. My goal is to awaken those who might still be asleep to this. And if you're sitting with any doubt right now about whether any of this is real, I want to offer you something before we go any further. Something simple. Something you can check for yourself in the next 60 seconds. Pause for a moment and do a search on a platform like Etsy. Just one of the many platforms where this exists. Or do a simple Google search. What you'll find is a vast and chilling number of spells available to purchase. Binding spells, financial blocks, beauty spells, destiny workings, all of it openly listed, easily accessible to anyone. And that vast supply exists for one reason only, because the demand that facilitates it is equally vast. Supply does not exist without demand, and demand at that scale does not lie. This is real. And here's something worth understanding about why this stuff is so attractive to people who operate this way. Because for a certain kind of person, this is the perfect solution. All of the reward, none of the work. No discipline required, no genuine effort, no growth, no real building. Just the redirected fruit of someone else's sweat and sacrifice and quiet, consistent labor. Someone else's tears, someone else's years. And the one thing they need in order for it to keep working, the single non-negotiable condition of the entire operation, is your unawareness, your confusion, your willingness to keep looking everywhere except at the truth of what is happening. Because awareness is dangerous to them, genuinely dangerous, not uncomfortable or inconvenient, dangerous. The moment you become consciously aware, the moment you start noticing exactly how you're stuck and what thoughts keep you circling, what low vibrational patterns keep running in the background like an engine you never switched on yourself, you can begin to use your own mind and your own healing to bring it to a stop. And something extraordinary begins to happen. You become a mirror. Everything sent in your direction stops landing. It stops finding purchase, and instead, it begins its return journey back to its source. And you will start to see the evidence, the darkness they directed at you, beginning to show up in their own life as they receive everything they sent your way. That is not revenge, that is the law, and it is precise. And with that sitting with you, let me paint a picture of what it actually costs a human life. Imagine getting to the end of a life when it is too late to redo anything, when the dreams carried for decades are no longer reachable, and in that final reckoning, coming to the understanding that the stuckness was not accidental, that the series of unfortunate events was not bad luck at all, that the doors that kept closing, the momentum that kept stalling, the version of yourself that always seemed just out of reach had a source, a deliberate, calculated, human source. Someone you loved maybe, someone you trusted, maybe someone you welcomed and gave to freely. And here's the part that matters most. It's not enough for them to simply redirect what was yours. For the operation to continue, for the siphoning to remain active, you had to stay down, defeated, resigned, energetically broken. Your hopelessness was not just a consequence of what was done to you. It was a condition of it. They needed you stuck, depleted, watching your life pass you by. Because that sustained polarity, your depletion against their abundance, is what kept the flow going. And so, imagine arriving at the end of that life, understanding that the hopelessness was their wish for you, not a side effect, a strategy, one they delighted in. That is not dramatic language. That is predatory and psychopathic behavior, and it deserves to be named as exactly that. And it is honestly one of the saddest thoughts I have ever had. And that is precisely why I will not stop telling this story. I want to share something else that is happening in real time right now as I build this series and share it with you. Every day I look at the insights for my posts, the graphs, the reach, and I can see it in the dips, in the pattern of them, in how many there are and when they appear. That there are people actively working to suppress this content, reporting it, flagging it, doing whatever is available to them to limit how far it travels. And what that pattern also reveals in its consistency and its deliberateness, in the regularity with which it appears, is stalking, a daily monitoring of everything I post, a surveillance of my presence on this platform that mirrors exactly what was described in Part C. The staying close enough to the operation to monitor it, adjust it, and manage it. The proximity has been removed, but the watching continues. And what those dips reveal is not just hostility, it is desperation. Because a person who is simply unbothered does not dedicate energy to silencing someone else's story. A person who has nothing to hide does not need to limit what is seen. The pattern of suppression tells its own story, and it confirms rather than contradicts everything I've been sharing in this series. At the same time, they're still talking, still actively slandering my character, spreading false statements to people who might otherwise be open to hearing this, still working to discredit my work and distort who I am. And while all of that is running, while the slander and the distortion and the discrediting continues, they're simultaneously painting themselves as victims. Damsels even performing helplessness with the same ease they perform everything else. Love bombing the people around them, securing their positions, maintaining the alliances that give the whole operation its cover. And it's a masterful manipulation tactic. And it is running on both tracks simultaneously. The attack on one side, the performance of innocence on the other. So that anyone looking from the outside sees only the damsel, never the operation. And it is not just the content suppression. Since I began this series, there have been attempts to log into my social media accounts repeatedly. I will be honest, it's juvenile. A transparent attempt to distract me from this project, to pull my focus away long enough for the work to slow down. It has not worked, and it will not work. And I want to name something about the energy behind all of this because it's important. The stalking, the suppression, the slander, the attempted logins. It's not just hostile, it's vengeful, as though I did something wrong, as though my survival is an affront that needs to be punished. And when you understand how the operation works, when you understand that my depletion was not just a byproduct but a necessary condition of their abundance, the vengeance makes complete sense. My refusal to stay down meant one thing to them, that they could no longer live the way they had been living on my energy. The abundance they had built on my sustained, distracted state began to dry up. The flow stopped, and their response to that was not to move on. It was rage, wounded entitlement. How dare I survive? How dare I heal? How dare I build something from the rubble they created and then have the audacity to tell this story? The vengeance is the proof, because a person who had simply moved on, a person with no ongoing investment in your depletion would not be here, would not be watching, would not be suppressing and slandering and attempting access. The fact that they're still so focused, still so activated, tells you everything about what your recovery has cost them, and everything about what your awareness is worth. I name all of this not to alarm you, but because it's important that you understand that this is not a story that ended. It is live, which is precisely why this series exists, and precisely why it needs to be seen. Because I was on the receiving end of this. I know what it costs from the inside. I know what it feels like to work genuinely, consistently, with everything you have, to exhaustion, and watch the abundance redirect. To feel depleted in ways you cannot explain. To be generous and open and trusting, and have that generosity systematically exploited. Not just by the person you knew, but by people connected to her that I didn't even know existed. People I had never met. People who were beneficiaries of my unawareness, who were receiving directly or indirectly what should have been mine, without my knowledge and without my consent. That is the reality of how this works. The siphoning does not stay contained to the person doing it. It flows outward to their circle, to the people around them who benefit from their sudden, inexplicable, and ill-gotten improvement in circumstances. While the source of that improvement, the person being siphoned, struggles to understand why nothing is working the way it should. And the unfairness of it, the quiet, persistent, devastating unfairness of working hard and giving freely and trusting openly, and having all of it redirected to people who did nothing to earn it, is exactly why this story needs to be told. And I want to give you a picture of what that actually looks like. Because the mechanism of it, when you step back far enough to see it clearly, is something most of us have encountered in fiction without ever recognizing it in our own lives. Like real-life vampires, maybe? Only they don't move under the cover of night or sleep in coffins. They don't wear capes. They wear smiles. They perform love and care. And when things didn't quite work out, they were there, comforting, present, sympathetic. And when there was nothing to commiserate over, they distracted. celebrations that had nothing to do with anything, noise and movement and occasion carefully placed to keep your focus anywhere but where it needed to be, all the while knowing, because they were the reason, summoning the very forces working against you, redirecting your abundance their way, manipulating your external environment to quietly, deliberately change your narrative. And you never knew, because nothing about them looked like a threat. Everything about them looked like love. And like every creature that operates in darkness, light is their weakness, your awareness, the illumination of exactly how and where they exist. Because somewhere out there is a person working just as hard as I was, being just as generous, feeling just as depleted and confused and stuck and having no idea why. No idea that there's a name for what's happening to them. No idea that the awareness they're missing is the beginning of the way out. I'm telling this story for that person. Because if people genuinely begin to accept that there are those who use spell work, energetic manipulation, and spiritual tools to siphon the abundance of the people around them, not as a dramatic or exotic idea, but as a real and operating reality, then the next natural step is reflection. People begin to look at their own lives, at their own patterns, at the stuckness that has no logical explanation, at the bad luck that seems to cluster around certain connections, at the financial struggles that persist no matter how hard they work or how carefully they plan. And maybe they'll begin to ask the question, who benefits from me feeling stuck? In what way am I stuck? What is being redirected and where is it going? And then, and this is the part that changes everything, they might begin to protect themselves, their energy, their time, their finances, their abundance. They might begin to close the doors that were left open, to question the connections that drain rather than replenish, to notice the discard, to trust the nudge that says something is not right here. And the moment that happens, the moment enough people wake up and close the doors, the operation becomes unsustainable. The car that couldn't be afforded on genuine income becomes unaffordable again. The house renovations, the house extensions, the loans they had access to are no longer so easily attainable. The Louis Vuitton bags bought in an attempt to portray belonging in circles they need to stay close to in order to continue siphoning suddenly become a clear indicator of the mask. The constant association with overindulgence that they seem to thrive within suddenly becomes visible for what it is, a means of keeping those around them in a fog. The lifestyle built not on the fruit of real work and real provision, but on the quiet and secretive, redirected abundance of unaware people who they think are easy to manipulate. All of it begins to collapse. That is not a small threat to people who operate this way. That is the end of the entire system, which is why the suppression is not casual, it is not petty, it is strategic, and it is desperate. Because the awareness spreading is the one thing they cannot afford. Now I want to be clear about something. I'm not here to dive into conspiracy theories. I'm not making claims beyond what my own personal experience has taught me. But my personal experience has taught me this. People like this exist. Motivations like this exist. Operations like this exist. At the personal level and beyond it. And I don't believe they're going anywhere anytime soon. When I began this series, I referenced the 1% as a modest estimate of people using directed spiritual tools to manipulate the free will of others. And then, in the honest expansion of this conversation, another meaning of the same number surfaced. The 1% who sit at the top of the systems that shape the daily reality of everyone beneath them. I no longer believe in coincidences because the motivation is identical. The mechanics are identical. Whether it is one person redirecting another's abundance through spell work, or a system keeping entire populations confused, depleted, and distracted, The operation runs on the same two tracks, the unseen and the physical. Same impulse, different scale. We only have to look at what is happening in the world right now. We only have to look at the news to see this playing out. And I will leave you to draw your own conclusion about what you see. But guess what? Here's what my experience has taught me. And this is the part that matters most. They can do whatever the hell they want. Because once you're aware, genuinely and consistently doing the healing and the inner work, once you're mindful of your own baseline, aligned with something larger than yourself, you have ultimate control. You cannot be manipulated into taking actions that do not serve your greatest good. You cannot be tricked into giving up what is yours. You cannot be redirected without your conscious participation. And that is not a small thing. That is everything. Peace is a radar. Centeredness, self-awareness, the ability to sit confidently in your own lane is not just a pleasant way to live. It is your most sophisticated defense. Because once you have that, once you're genuinely rooted in your own baseline, genuinely aligned with your own divine provision, you can see clearly in any given moment what is yours and what isn't. What thought belongs to you and what arrived from somewhere else. What direction is genuinely yours and what is an illusion inviting you in. And from that place of clarity, you get to choose, not reactively or from a place of fear or confusion or carefully managed chaos, but from your own sovereign knowing. That is the power. Not in fighting, not in the resistance, in the peace, in the presence, in the daily accumulated chosen practice of sitting in your own lane and trusting that everything designed for you will find you there. You cannot reach someone who is fully, peacefully, sovereignly themselves. There's nothing to attach to, nothing to redirect, nothing to exploit. The cow in the field doesn't worry about any of it, and neither these days do I. Part 6I. We have talked about what is being done, how it is maintained, who is doing it, and the scale at which it operates. Now I want to talk about what it costs, not just spiritually, in every dimension of a life. Come back for it.